After the design, the site is cut up, it's sliced up, and that's something usually a front-end developer does, or a web author does, or a programmer, depending on who you're working with. And the site is coded. So again, there's multiple synonyms and names you'll hear. Some people are web authors, meaning they'll work with HTML and CSS, and that's it. Maybe a little bit of JavaScript. Then you have front-end developers that are working with those elements, but they're also working a lot with JavaScript and JavaScript libraries and adding additional interaction within the page. Okay, then you have your programmers or your back-end developers that are working with server-side technology, and that's stuff that you don't really see happen on a website. Okay, so the site is coded after it's designed. So already there's a few phases here, and there's things happening, and you could see, it's not going to be it's not going to be a quick turnaround. So if your expectation is, oh my God, I need even a 6-page website, I need it immediately, you might want to jump into a templated option. The stuff I'm talking about is homemade, very practical, hand-done sites. Some people will give you a site in a quick turnaround, but they're using a template. And those are fine because some of them work great. But already with these different phases, design phase will take sometimes six weeks, maybe longer, depending on, again, how quick you're saying yay or nay to the designs as they come in. Okay, so after the site is coded, you've got to test it. And you've got it used to be you test in like 2 browsers, right? On a desktop computer. But now, of course, we're testing on mobile phones, iPads, tablets, desktops, laptops, anytops. Usually before you order the service, you are specifying what you want that site to be built for, because more often than not, if you're doing the full Monty of devices, you're going to pay someone to do that. And testing is, in my opinion, could be the most important part of the build, because the last thing you want to happen is to launch a site you've been working on and it looks like poop. And when a site is launched live and it looks like poop, or there's no disclaimer that says, hey, this is best viewed in this, and this, people are going to think you don't care. Now, whether you do or you don't care, it doesn't matter. But if people see something that's broken, more often than not, they just assume, well, if the website's broken, the business is broken. And that's often not true. And that's a very unfortunate aspect of the medium of the web. And it's not like an antique or something where if it's broken and banged up, then it's more desirable. No, it's got to look shiny. It's got to look like a magazine. It's got to be, of all things, legible. Okay, so after you've published everything, after you've tested it, now you're going to publish it. And that's basically your developer, whoever you're working with, your front-end person, your web author, your web designer, whoever's coding everything for you. They finish coding up, they test it, and now they're going to publish it to your URL, your domain name. So if your domain name is books.com, I don't know who owns that one, but that's a good one, you're going to finally see your site there, and it's going to go live, of course, after you've tested it. Most websites you could test directly on your computer. You don't even need a domain name. You could build a fully functional website without buying a host and a domain name, but you always want to test it somewhere other than the final domain name. So again, if it's books.com, you don't want to be looking at all your tests, in real time there, unless you're confident that no one's going to pick up the site. You usually want to do a test URL or a test location. So you could set that up on the server, talk to your person who's coding to set that up. We can go into that later. The main point here is that your site's finally published. After it's published, guess what? You're never done. You're not done. It's like a garden. Websites are like a garden. You're always got to tend to them. And as your business changes and as your services change, so will your website. And people get caught up in the upkeep phase once it's being published, your site, and they haven't really planned for the amount of updates they're doing. Some people will charge a very minimal fee for updates. It could be included with the initial package that you paid for as you began this web journey down this production line. Or some people will charge extra. And if it's not taken into account in the beginning before you hire someone, what'll happen is you'll start updating where maybe structurally your site can't be updated, which will lead to more updates, which will lead to more of a budget going out the window. You get what I'm saying? Luckily, the web is much easier to update than it used to be because of advancements in code and the way the sites are put together. So, before we go any further, let's just review the web process: concept, wireframe, design, code, test, publish, and then your upkeep. And that is pretty much how the web process works. Remember, if you're paying for a freelance person and you are then, it's up to you whether or not you go to the next phase. And you go to the next phase when you've reached a point of clarification and getting what you want. So it's a delicate balance because people usually do not have an unlimited income for their site. So if you spend too much time on design, you might have to be paying more when it takes time to get coded, the site, and vice versa. If you don't spend enough time designing and getting the design right, you might not end up with something that's going to be functioning the way you want. So don't obsess about it. Don't obsess about it. Try to see your website from a bird's eye view. And remember, everything eventually can be improved. So if something is not exactly right and it seems that you're over obsessing about it, take a break from it, walk around the corner, come back to it, and know that you want clarity on the web. You have to put yourself in a place where no one knows anything about your services or anything about you. And you want to put yourself in a place where you could see your site from an ignorant user, from the spot of an ignorant user. And at the bare minimum, you want to make sure your logo's clear, what you do is clear, and your contact information is clear. And if you got those things on your website, you're probably doing all right. And of course, it doesn't hurt to ask friends down the road to preview the site. And when you're testing it, it helps to ask people to test. I don't really recommend getting people involved inside the design process too much unless they are business partners, because that will drag out the process. And quite frankly, if someone is not in your line of work, it might not be the best thing to involve them. It'll just drag stuff out. In some cases, it might work fine, but trust yourself. Make the decisions yourself, and that way you'll be more in tune with your site as you go along. So this was the International Consultant Bureau talking to you about the web process. Next time, we're going to go into more detail about what that designer is going to do for you when you hire them, and then we'll talk about what a developer does and what programmers do, so you know kind of what they're doing behind the scenes there as you're waiting for all your designs to come back. I will see you soon. International Consultant, out.